To create text, click on the Text 2D button, then click on an area in the workspace where you want to create your text. This will activate the Text 2D tab in the Properties sheet to the right of the workspace. In this text box, type in the text you want to create. I'll enter GT SCHMIDT. If I press enter, I can type in multiple lines of text like this. But for now, I'll just leave it at GT SCHMIDT. Now that I've typed that in, I'll click apply, and the text will appear in the workspace. Alternatively, if I want changes I make in this tab to go live right away, I can check the auto apply box. Now when I type in the text box, the changes will automatically appear in the workspace. To change the font of the text, click on the Font drop-down box and select the desired font. Below the Font drop-down box is a section for size, but we're going to ignore this section and quickly jump to the Dimension tab instead. Using the X and Y dimension values is a better way of determining the size of your text. If you look at the current values, you'll see how tall and how long your current text is in millimeters. If you want your text to be a certain length, change the X value to whatever length that you want. If you want your text to be a certain height, change the Y value. To make sure that you don't distort your text, check the Keep Aspect Ratio so that the height of the text is proportionally resized with the width of the text. So for this example, I want to make sure that my text is no bigger than 8 millimeters tall. So I will change the Y dimension to 8. When I click Go or press Enter, the height of the text will change to 8 millimeters and the length of the text will change proportionately. Now let's go back to the Text 2D tab. Orientation will change the direction the text goes. The default is horizontal, with the text reading from left to right. In vertical, the text reads from top to bottom. Below orientation are two style options. You can make your text italic, bold, or both by checking the appropriate boxes. Now let's look at a few of the different options available through the Extended button. When we click on it, the Text Properties window appears. Line spacing will increase or decrease the space between multiple lines of text. Right now we only have one line of text, so we'll create a second and third line. Alright, now that we have multiple lines of text, let's click on Extended again and take a look at our options under line spacing. To the right of line spacing are two radio buttons, one for percentage and one for millimeters. With these, you can choose to change the spacing between lines either by entering a percentage or a specific size measured in millimeters. I'll leave it at percentage and enter a value of 200. This means that the space between lines will be twice the height of the character height. So if the character height is set to 8 millimeters, entering a value of 200% for line spacing means the space between lines will be 16 millimeters. Character spacing works similarly to line spacing. However, instead of space between lines, it determines the space between each character. To create radial text, click on the Draw Radial checkbox. The radius determines the size of the circle. We'll enter a 12 millimeter radius for this example. And when we click OK, we can see what that will look like. The start angle determines where in the circle the text begins. At 0 degrees, the text begins at the left side of the circle. At 90 degrees, the text begins at the top of the circle, and so on. If the character outline box is checked, the length setting in the limits section will change to angle. You can then enter a value here to set a limit of how far along the circle the text will go. At 360 degrees, the text will make use of the full circle. But if we were to enter 180 degrees, we would limit the text to the first 180 degrees of the circle. Back under radial text, the center option designates the location of the center of the radial text in the workspace. So if we put 0 for x and 0 for y, then the center of the radial text will be right in the center of the workspace. When the Draw Radial checkbox is not checked, the options in the Limits section are length and height. As the name suggests, these will limit the length and height of your text. I'll enter 50 millimeters for the length. When I click OK, you can see that the length of my text has gotten shorter. The beginning of the first character to the end of the last character measures 50 millimeters. Furthermore, if I add text, the size of each character will get smaller and smaller so that the size of the entire line does not go beyond 50 millimeters. Similarly, if I change the height limit to 20 millimeters, the height of the text will not go beyond 20 millimeters. Not only does this mean that the characters cannot exceed 20 millimeters in height, but it also means that if I add additional lines, the size of the characters will get smaller so that all the lines combined do not exceed 20 millimeters. And, as with the Dimension tab, you have the option to keep the aspect ratio of the text when setting limits. Lastly, let's check out the options under Miscellaneous. Mirror X will flip each character along its x-axis. Mirror Y will flip each character along its y-axis. Reverse will reverse the order of the characters. And swap lines will flip the order of the lines.